I dated my fiancé for 5 years before we tied the knot. I have a great relationship with his parents and siblings, except one of his sisters, the golden child of the family. She's annoying, but whatever, it's fine. I've been able to keep out of her way for the most part, as her family lives out of state. So my boyfriend and I got engaged, and everything is going great, planning with both sides of the family, until sister-in-law at the last minute requests that she and her family baptize their daughter during our ceremony. She'd even called our priest, and he'd agreed to combine the ceremonies. What? I said no for several reasons, none of which were good enough, and I was apparently being unreasonable and selfish. My reasons. We're Catholic, and weddings are usually an hour. Tacking on a baptism would either make the ceremony longer, or take time away from our ceremony. Our wedding was an evening affair, and the reception was only going to be about 2 hours, so even if it lasted 30 minutes, baptism and their photos afterwards, that would cut our reception down to an hour and a half. Her wedding reception was an all-day affair. FYI, the baby would be in the church, in the wedding photos, and at the reception. So seriously, who would focus on another wedding couple when there's a first grandchild nearby? Her reasoning: all the family would already be gathered for our wedding, and it'd be a good time for them, her family, to have it. And shouldn't I be accommodating to a first-time mother? They'd only invite about 4 to 6 additional people to our wedding, strangers to us, and it'd be easier on them because we'd already have the venue and food for their short guest list, which we'd be paying for. It's the first grandchild, and important to the HER family. I guess I wasn't a part of it yet, and not included in this sentiment. My fiancé didn't have a strong preference either way, but supported how I felt on the matter. I stuck to my guns and said no, but we offered a compromise. We said we'd delay our honeymoon trip, and they could have the baptism the next Sunday morning during Mass. I thought it was a great compromise, but sister-in-law was not thrilled. So that's what we ended up doing, but she still brought baby girl in full white satin lace to the wedding, and was front and center in all the photos. And they brought their 4 to 6 extra friends to our reception without asking first. We never made a fuss about it. My issue is this: I still get crap from this sister-in-law, and it's been a couple of years since the wedding. Snippy remarks made when it's only the two of us around, passive-aggressive comments in front of others, bridezilla labels tossed my way, a cold shoulder when I try to talk to her at holidays, etc. Like seriously, it was years ago, and she basically got what she wanted, so why am I being treated like I was an AH? Am I the idiot? Edit to address repeated questions. When this first came up, I said no. My husband took over handling this completely from there. He worked with his mom and sister. I didn't have to deal with anything besides initially saying no. Husband was the point of contact after that. Granted, we didn't know she'd still show up with her guests to the reception, or knew what her daughter was dressed in. But at that point, we were having a good time at our reception, and were focusing on ourselves. I only figured out she'd invited her friends when I saw the photos later. I don't know if she ever offered to pay, because I wasn't in the conversation at this point. It happened right before our wedding, and Hubs and mother-in-law didn't want me to stress out. It was a short evening reception with a buffet. We had about 200 people total. Her passive-aggressive comments in the following years were very subtle. If she said something rude, and if I or my husband called her out on it, which he did, she'd claim we simply misunderstood her. The rude comments or snubs she gave me directly in private, she'd also claim I misunderstood her, or was blowing an innocent comment out of proportion. My husband has stood up for me, but our interactions with her are brief and only once or twice a year, so I'm not dedicating a lot of time to trying to have a great relationship with her. She's a narcissist, and I refuse to give her any drama to feed her addiction. It just struck me as odd that she's hung on to this incident for so long, and I began to question if I might have inadvertently been the A, hence this post. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Holy crap, so not the skessed, not the idiot. You've got a long-term problem on your hand. It sounds like she has to be in the spotlight no matter what. She will probably try to continue this behavior in future situations. I'm wondering why your hubby isn't standing up to his sister. It's his responsibility, not yours. He chose to make a family with you. His commitment and priorities lie with you, not her. Sister-in-law needs firm boundaries set in place. It will be hard, because she will do her best to blow right through them. Stand firm and have consequences for her. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I grew up Catholic, and I have never heard of someone requesting this. I mean, why not throw a confirmation in there too, and then everyone can go to penance on the way out. This was a wedding, not a one-stop shopping church visit. Now for the update. Hey everyone. Thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a chaotic few days, and I've got quite the update for you all. So the drama with my sister-in-law, SIL, has escalated in ways I never expected. Remember how she tried to hijack my wedding with her daughter's baptism? Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. 3 days ago, I was at my in-laws' house for a family dinner. It was supposed to be a casual affair, but sister-in-law was there, and the tension was thick. She's always had this way of making everything about her, and that night was no different. She started reminiscing about her own wedding, which was a grand all-day event, and how she wished family gatherings could always be that special and inclusive. My husband, bless his heart, tried to change the subject, but sister-in-law was on a roll. She brought up the baptism wedding fiasco again, painting herself as the victim in front of everyone. I could feel my face getting hot, but I bit my tongue. I didn't want to cause a scene, but then the bomb dropped. Sister-in-law announced that she and her husband were renewing their vows for their upcoming anniversary and wanted to do it at our house since it had a lovely backyard, perfect for intimate gatherings. She said it so sweetly, but her eyes were challenging me, daring me to object. I was stunned. My husband and I had put so much work into our home, and the idea of her taking over our space like that was too much. I could see my husband was torn. He's always been the peacemaker in the family, but even he looked like he was at his limit. We excused ourselves to talk privately, and that's when he confessed something that floored me. He told me that before our wedding, sister-in-law had tried to convince him to let her be more involved in the planning, suggesting that it would be good practice for when she renewed her vows. He'd shut her down, but he hadn't told me because he didn't want to stress me out before our big day. I was livid. It felt like she'd been plotting to overshadow us from the start. We decided then and there that we wouldn't let her use our home for her vow renewal. When we returned to the dinner table, my husband firmly but politely declined her request. Sister-in-law's reaction was immediate. She accused us of being selfish and unsupportive, and her husband chimed in, saying that we owed them since they graciously attended our wedding without making a fuss about the baptism. The nerve! The argument that followed was intense. My father-in-law, who's always been a quiet man, finally spoke up. He revealed that he'd been aware of sister-in-law's manipulative behavior for years, but had hoped she'd change after becoming a mother. He apologized to us for not stepping in sooner. The confrontation ended with sister-in-law storming out, and the rest of us were left to pick up the pieces. It was a jaw-dropping moment, seeing the family finally acknowledge the elephant in the room. The next day, my husband and I received a text from sister-in-law. She apologized, sort of. It was one of those, "I'm sorry you feel that way," non-apologies, but it was more than we'd ever gotten from her before. She also mentioned that they'd found another venue for the vow renewal. It's been a whirlwind of emotions, but here's the bittersweet part. My husband and I feel closer than ever after standing up to sister-in-law together. However, there's a rift in the family now. My in-laws are disappointed in sister-in-law, and she's keeping her distance from everyone. As for the vow renewal, it's happening next month, and we're invited. We haven't decided if we're going yet. It's hard to imagine celebrating with her after everything that's happened. Sis begs me to adopt her daughter and move her to Sweden, but now her marriage is falling apart, and she wants me to take her other daughter. A bit of backstory. I, 39-year-old female, am a twin. Growing up, my sister, who I'll call Tanha, grew uncomfortable with being a twin. In a way, I do get it, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Tanha married Jason, who is 42 years old, 20 years ago. With the way she viewed being a twin, it caused me some worry when she fell pregnant with twin girls, who are 16, Jasmine and Chloe, neither of whom likes each other in the slightest. I don't know if it's a natural dislike or something Tanha encouraged. Chloe, the older twin, is heavily favoured by my sister and Jason. It bothered me a lot when Jasmine is so kind, intelligent, and has decided to be a paediatric surgeon. Her interest in medicine started when she was very young, after I was babysitting her and Chloe, and she saw all the books and anatomical displays in my office. I'm a cardiologist. Just over a year ago, Tanha asked if I would be interested in adopting Jasmine, as she couldn't keep up with trying to raise 2 kids. I said I would only agree if that was what Jasmine wanted. I didn't want to make such a change without her input. She was 14, not 2. Jasmine was overjoyed and eagerly agreed to the adoption. I did make sure to have her in therapy. Here is where I may be the jerk. 4 months ago, a position opened up in Sweden. I talked it over with Jasmine, and she was super excited, and it would also put her in far better schools. So, after getting my work visa and filling out the paperwork, we prepared for the move. Jasmine was chattering to all of her teachers and classmates about the move, and it did draw quite a lot of attention to her. I later had an angry Tanha, Jason, and Chloe on my doorstep. They demanded to know why I was moving their daughter away from her family across the world and throwing so much money on her education, clothing, and electronics, when I didn't do the same for Chloe. I got mad, and this is where I may have overstepped. I snapped that they'd lost their right to claim Jasmine when they neglected her and threw her to the side, just because Tanner couldn't handle the fact that she and Chloe had twin siblings. That Jasmine deserved her chance to make her life the way she wanted it, and that Tanner and Jason spoiled Chloe more than I ever did. So yes, I was favoring Jasmine because she needed someone on her side. Tanner broke down in tears, Chloe doing the same while sobbing and crying out that I hated her before they left, as Jason called me a witch for destroying his family. We didn't hear anything more from them as we packed, and we moved 3 months ago. Jasmine, thankfully, wasn't home for that conversation, though I did tell her, as I don't believe in keeping secrets like that when she had a right to know. She cried, but thanked me for not giving up on her or forgetting her. I've gotten several calls from our extended family, berating me for moving and tearing Jasmine from her family, calling me selfish and cold. I can't help but worry I went too far. Am I a jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. They can't discard their child and then later claim her. They gave her up for adoption as a teenager, poor kid. The only reason why they showed up to your door is because Chloe wanted what Jasmine had. Good on you for setting boundaries. They are delusional. Don't allow them to have further access to your child. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Just over a year ago, Tanner asked if I would be interested in adopting Jasmine, as she couldn't keep up with trying to raise 2 kids. Tanner and Jason destroyed their family when they threw away Jasmine. Thank you for being a good aunt, and now a great mom for having Jasmine's back and future. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a hectic 3 months since Jasmine and I moved to Sweden, and a lot has happened. I thought I'd give you all an update on the situation. First off, let me tell you the move was the best decision for Jasmine. She's thriving in her new school and has made a bunch of friends. She's even started volunteering at a local hospital, which has only fueled her passion for becoming a pediatric surgeon. But, as you can imagine, things haven't been smooth sailing back home. Tanha and Jason's marriage has been rocky for years, something I didn't mention before. They've always put up a united front, but behind closed doors, it's a different story. Jason has a history of being, let's say, less than faithful, and Tanha has always turned a blind eye, focusing her energy on Chloe instead. Well, about a month after we left, I got a call from Tanha, which was surprising, to say the least. She was crying, saying that Jason had left her for someone else. Apparently, he'd been having an affair with Chloe's dance instructor, a woman half his age. The shocker? Chloe knew about it and had been covering for him. When Tanha found out, she was devastated, not just by the betrayal, but by the fact that her favoured daughter had been complicit in the deception. Jasmine was heartbroken when I told her. Despite everything, she still cared deeply for her family. She wanted to reach out to Tanha, but I advised her to wait until things cooled down. I didn't want her getting caught up in their mess. In the meantime, Chloe's life took a turn. With her dad gone and Tanha in pieces, she started acting out. She got caught shoplifting and was suspended from school for cheating on a test. It was like the perfect facade of their family was crumbling, and Chloe didn't know how to handle not being the center of attention. Now, here's the jaw-dropping part. Tanha, in a moment of what I can only describe as desperation, reached out to me again. She wanted to know if I would consider taking Chloe in as well. She said she couldn't cope with her anymore, and that Chloe needed a fresh start. I was stunned. After everything that had happened, after the way they had treated Jasmine, they now wanted me to step in and fix things with Chloe? I told Tanha I needed time to think about it. Jasmine was my priority, and I had to consider what was best for her. But Jasmine, bless her heart, said she was willing to give Chloe a chance if it meant helping her sister. So, we agreed to have Chloe come to stay with us for a trial period during her summer break. Chloe arrived 2 weeks ago, and it's been tense. She's not used to not getting her way, and Jasmine has been patient, but I can tell it's wearing on her. They've had a few confrontations, with Chloe accusing Jasmine of stealing her life, and Jasmine firing back, that Chloe never appreciated what she had. Just when I thought things couldn't get more complicated, Tan had dropped another bombshell. She's pregnant. At 39, with her life in shambles, she's expecting a baby with a man she refuses to name. She's scared and alone, and part of me feels for her, but another part is angry that she's put herself in this situation. As for Jason, he's already moved in with the dance instructor, and they're flaunting their relationship all over social media. It's like he's completely forgotten he has 2 daughters who are struggling with the fallout of his actions. So, here we are, trying to navigate this new dynamic. Jasmine is doing her best to support Chloe, but I can see the strain it's putting on her. Chloe is slowly realizing that her actions have consequences, and Tana is facing the reality of being a single mother again. I've been getting calls from family members, some supportive, others accusing me of meddling and making things worse. It's been a roller coaster, and I'm just trying to do what's best for Jasmine, and now, possibly, Chloe. Karma has a funny way of working things out, though. Just yesterday, Chloe came to me, tears in her eyes, and apologized for how she'd treated Jasmine in the past. She said she was starting to see how much Jasmine had been hurt by their family's actions. It was a small step, but a significant one. Mia asks me to pay a deposit for her school trip, but I refuse because she told me at the last minute. She wants me to pay it from my savings, but I want to save for a new game console. My husband and youngest child support my decision, but Mia is upset. I, a 37-year-old female, have a daughter named Maya who is 15 years old. Mia is very forgetful and irresponsible when it comes to school. She is rarely on time or is late to school, even though we live just a 10-minute walk away. She often does her homework at the last minute and frequently asks for deadline extensions. She has a tendency to remind me to pay for school-related things, like lunch money, right before I'm going to bed, or to ask me to take something into school, so we have to quickly run to the store. Last month, I went on a wild goose chase to help Mia find ingredients for her home economics class. She told me she needed XYZ ingredients at 10:30, but we didn't have them when she checked the fridge. I saw that the email with the ingredient list was dated a week ago, and I got annoyed that Mia didn't tell me earlier when we did the big food shop for the family. I told her that the next time she needs something for school, she needs to tell me the day she is told, or the day after at the latest, or I will not help her out. My husband has stopped helping Mia with her last-minute requests and calls me a pushover for still helping her. However, when she asked me today to pay the deposit for a school trip, I put my foot down. Mia has known since the beginning of the school year that she had a school trip to Germany. The school sent an email 2 months ago asking for deposits to secure a place on the trip. The deposit is about $150, and Mia asked me today to pay it because the deadline is midnight and she may not be able to go. I reminded her about what I said regarding deadlines and organization. And because she chose to tell me at the last minute, I will not be paying for her deposit. She got upset because all her friends from history class are going. I told Mia that she can pay for the deposit herself from her savings. She has a part-time job, which should be more than enough to cover the cost. However, she wants to save up to buy a new game console. I told her to choose between going on the trip or getting a new game console, and she called me an asshole. Now I'm wondering if I'm being unreasonable. My husband is on my side, but my youngest child said it was mean, and Mia is very upset with me. ETA, Mia doesn't have ADHD, but she is dyslexic. This does explain her struggles with schoolwork sometimes. However, she still asks for extensions on top of her extensions, which is a sore spot for her and my husband. He wants her to be more organized and not leave work to the last minute. Mia has been tested for ADHD and does not have it. I did my research at the time and realized that it often gets overlooked in girls. Even after getting another opinion, she doesn't have ADHD. She gets help from a school advisor for her dyslexia, and at home we have discussed strategies to help her stay on track with her responsibilities. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I believe something is amiss. Alright, she's 15 years old enough to put phone alarms to important things, but you don't seem to have taught her how to organize. Have you given her a planner? Or helped her set her schedule for study and play? Some kids need more supervision than others. About the trip and deposit, I think a good compromise is she pays the deposit with her savings and puts in place any strategy for reminding deadlines, and they show improvement, not saying she will fix everything, but needs to have some improvement. The parents pay back the deposit and the rest of the trip. In general, everyone sucks here. Comment 2. Not the idiot. But if she has issues with organization and has not been able to figure it out herself, it is your place as her parents to help her navigate this. For example, you can set up a weekly family check-in where she actively checks on all the things she needs to do, compiles a list, and shares it with you, along with the respective deadlines. Joint activities like that would teach her the skills to be more organized. Expecting her to figure it out on her own without guiding her, and then getting annoyed with her when she fails to be organized, seems unfair, or at least not helpful to her situation. Now for the update. Hey everyone, back with an update on the situation with my daughter Mia and her school trip deposit. It's been a wild 3 days, and I can't believe how things have turned out. So, after I refused to pay the deposit for Mia's school trip to Germany, because she told me at the last minute, she was furious. She stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. My husband, who's always been the stricter one when it comes to Mia's responsibilities, gave me a nod of approval. He's been telling me for years that we need to stop bailing her out. The next day, Mia was quieter than usual. She didn't ask me about the deposit again, which I thought was a sign that she was taking my decision to heart. But then, I found out from her brother, Alex, that she was planning to sell some of her video games to make up the money for the deposit. I was impressed by her initiative, but also a bit sad that she had to sell something she enjoyed. Later that evening, Mia came to me with the money in hand, but she looked upset. She told me that she had sold her games, but she was short by $30. I could see the effort she was making, and I was torn. I wanted to help her, but I also wanted her to learn from this experience. I decided to compromise. I told her that if she could come up with a plan to earn the remaining $30 before the deadline, I would lend her the money, but she would have to pay me back. Mia agreed, and she spent the rest of the evening doing extra chores around the house and helping our neighbor with some yard work. With only an hour left before the deadline, Mia had earned the $30. She was so proud as she handed me the money, and I could see a change in her. She was learning the value of hard work and planning ahead. But here's where things took a turn. As Mia was about to pay the deposit online, she realized that the price had increased to $200 because she was paying on the last day. She hadn't read the fine print in the school's email that mentioned the late fee. Mia was devastated, and I could see the regret in her eyes. I felt for her, but I also knew this was another important lesson. I reminded her that it's crucial to read all the information provided and not just skim through it. Mia nodded, understanding the mistake she had made. Now, for the jaw-dropping twist. This morning, Mia's history teacher called me. She wanted to discuss Mia's recent improvement in class and her participation in the history club. During our conversation, she mentioned the school trip and how Mia had been selected to receive a scholarship that covered half the cost of the trip due to her enthusiasm and contribution to the club. I was stunned. Mia hadn't mentioned anything about a scholarship. When I confronted her about it, she broke down and admitted that she had known about the scholarship for a week, but was too embarrassed to tell me because she thought I would be upset about her not telling me sooner. I was a mix of emotions. I was proud of her for earning the scholarship, but disappointed that she hadn't trusted me enough to share the good news. We had a long talk about communication and honesty, and I think we both learned a lot from this whole ordeal. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.